Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday. It's the TheOneRing.net live weekly show. I'm Justin, and this is my co-host Cliff. You may remember him starting his transition last week. His transition is totally complete. So how you doing, Cliff, aka Thor? Those wings do you good? What do you guys think? Does Cliff look better or worse? He won't have an issue with whatever you say. We're here in the chat room at TheOneRing.net/live. We're also streaming on Justin.tv/TheOneRingNet. We're here every Tuesday. I'm here every Friday because I just love Meltdown Comics. But we're here at Meltdown Comics in the middle of all things geek. The Nerd Melt Theater is right next to me. Over there, we've got the Nerdist podcast room where Chris Hardwick himself records some podcasts. So does Jonah Ray, who was the Bing guy, who's also got a TV show coming out called The Meltdown Show. It's going to be on Comedy Central. Also, you know who's a regular here? The Indoor Kids, Emily and Kumail Nanjiani, who you may know from that show Silicon Valley. He will also be starring in the Meltdown Show. Can you believe that our home, our geek home, is actually going to be on TV? And everybody will know Meltdown. And because you've been watching us for 2 years here at Meltdown, you can go all hipster and be like, well, I was a fan when. So, we got a ton of our regulars in the chat room. We thank you for joining us. Cliff, we got questions from the chat room. Are you a skin changer? No, you're just as pasty and white as usual. So I think his skin is the same. He's now just ahead. You know, Cliff loves Futurama, and he quotes it a lot, almost as much as his Miyazaki stuff. So he decided, forego this body, just make me ahead. So, there you go. Cliff, I just want to stare in your eyes all day. They're bluer than they've ever been. If you ever notice Cliff has blue eyes, he should be a performer or an actor. But no, he chose writing. He has the voice and the enunciation to be a talent and a performer and a stage thespian. But he chose other. I hope he didn't have an encounter with Azog. No, Smaug the Dragon. Cliff did not have an encounter with Azog. You can text us at 530-64-FRODO. One of these days I'll make a lower third with our phone number on it, because I don't have a lower third yet with our phone number on it. Maybe we should just have that in the corner permanently, kind of like the One Ring logo. Call us now or text us 530-64-FRODO. You know, my Skype has not worked in 3 weeks, and every time I try to answer a call, it just hangs up. So I got to figure out how to work with Skype. We're working on a way to put a laptop here so we can Skype more with you, because I want to Skype more. I want to Skype with you guys. Stargate Geek asked Billy Boyd if BK would play at my birthday. At first he had a joke, then he said drop him an email. Billy Boyd will perform anywhere as long as you fly him there, and anything's possible with the right amount of consideration. Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be super fun? Can we still Skype? I just answered that. Thank you. Fashina, TF Drum, Stargate Geek, Smaug the Dragon, Tetris, hello. How are you, Rovandir? We've got a lot of our regulars. Again, we're here every Tuesday live from Meltdown Comics at TheOneRing.net/live. There's so much going on. Cliff, I bet you by golly, Cliff has not seen Godzilla. Because Cliff doesn't see anything that isn't made by Hayao Miyazaki, or however you say his name, right? But Godzilla is amazing. I mean, that's this last shot. You see that last shot with that's the final shot of the movie. That is Godzilla getting up after the epic battle. He's tired, he's beat. The scientists want to poke and prod him, and he just stands up and he stretches his arms and gives the biggest epic yell. It was straight up Spielberg. When people say they saw Godzilla and they think Spielberg, It's because shots like that. Because Godzilla just screamed for no reason and then jumped into the water. You know, it's kind of like my 8-year-old niece. She screams really loud and then jumps off the diving board. And there's no reason to scream. And we always ask her, why do you have to scream before you jump in the pool? And she just says, I don't know. But Godzilla does the same thing. So I guess if we've raised a generation of people on 30 Godzilla movies. Wait, how many Godzilla movies are there?
That's the 30th. Gareth Edwards is number 30.
I got it right for once. There are 30 Godzilla movies.
That's if you include the American cut of the very first one with Raymond Burr in it, where they basically took it and inserted an American into it so people would freak out.
There's nothing wrong with Raymond Burr. So there have been 30 films of various edits. It's more fun. Arovani says it's more fun that way. So there's a lot to celebrate with Godzilla, especially if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, because we love our friend Jim Rigel. He was a visual effects supervisor on Lord of the Rings. I don't know if you know that, but the visual effects supervisor on Godzilla was the guy that did Lord of the Rings. He also did Blade Runner. Jim Rigel is known for creating atmospheric effects. He loves to put smoke and dust in front of things and particle. He's like, nothing's ever clean. The world is not clean. You can walk outside and there's smog in LA. There's a brown haze around Los Angeles, even on the clearest day, because the world is just dirty. And Jim Rigel, as visual effects supervisor, makes sure all of his visual effects are buried under smoke. And that's one of the reasons The Lord of the Rings feels more real. You know, when you see Rivendell, it's behind a soft mist, right? You know, when you're in the midst of battle on Pelennor Fields, there's so much dirt and dust getting kicked up. That's Jim. You know, the success of Helm's Deep and the amount of rain and atmosphere, like how do you make this feel like distance and that's all Jim. And you can definitely tell the difference on The Hobbit. On the visual effects on The Hobbit, a lot of people complain they're too clean. It's not just the frame rate, but if you just watch The Hobbit normally on Blu-ray or DVD, it's not as gritty. It's too clean. It's pristine. You know, the Misty Mountains, Mirkwood is supposed to be murky, maybe, right? It's not. There was more smoke in Bilbo's birthday in Lord of the Rings than there is in the entirety of Mirkwood. So Jim is all about atmosphere, and as a visual effects supervisor, you can definitely see the difference. If you saw Godzilla, you'll notice that there was a lot of dirt and dust kicked up every time he stepped. Even in between buildings, you just felt like it was filthy and dirty, and this was a big beast kicking up a lot of dirt. The skydiving was the best part of that movie. The skydiving scene with the red things, and they come down, and they're skydiving right beside him. It's so amazing. I wish they had a cleaner shot. I was kind of sick of seeing it through the goggles. Yeah. Like, I wanted a clean shot. But the skydiving in Rain of Fire was epic as well. That's a good call, TF Drums. My other favorite dragon movie, of course, is Rain of Fire with Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey. And if you're into those guys shirtless, that's a good movie to watch. I'm not into that. I can't speak for Cliff. Cliff, did you like Rain of Fire? He's thinking about that. But the skydiving scene was quite boring compared to the ones in Transformers 3. Yannick, I agree with you, but then everything is boring compared to a Michael Bay edit. In fact, I'll have you know, I was in the edit room at Michael Bay Studios when they were editing that film, and Michael Bay actually has 4 different editors editing the same scene. And so he's got 4 editors working in the same room. They're all working on the same scene, that skydiving scene. And then he comes in and he pits them all against each other. And so everybody watches everybody else's edit and they say, "All right, I like that one best. What do you guys think?" And then the editors have to compete with themselves. So it's tough working on a Michael Bay film. It's tough working on any film. But we'll get into that later when we talk about people working on Peter Jackson films. Did I see Godzilla in D-Box? No. D-Box are those seats that shake. Look, I saw it at the world-famous Grauman's Chinese Theater where The Hobbit premiered, and it's the largest IMAX screen in the world. It was in 3D. It's got booming bass, and boy, oh boy, the bass in those monster roars. I didn't need D-Box to really feel it. I had a Godzilla T-shirt that roared when I pushed a button. That would be amazing. I would love a Godzilla T-shirt. Maybe it's from Famous Monsters of Filmland, where you press a button and your T-shirt roars. That would be so rad. I hope they get something like that here at Meltdown. The question is, how did you get to be in the studio with Michael Bay? Hollywood's a weird place. Things happen. Magic happens. You never know who you're going to meet anytime. I was here at Meltdown Comics one night, and there was a guy named Tyrese Gibson. I don't know. I heard he was an R&B star. Did a little YouTube video about Meltdown Comics. Next thing you know, Tyrese calls me up, says, "Hey, I'm in this movie Transformers. Can you come to the set? I want to do a video." I helped him with the video, and there you go. So, hey, you're ruining my surprise. I told everybody that you shapeshifted into Thor.
Ruined the surprise? If I was shapeshifting, wouldn't it be some other kind of character, maybe from Tolkien,
What
perhaps?
would you shapeshift into? That was the question from the chat room.
Oh, really? What would I shapeshift into? If we're talking Bjorn style. Hi, how are you? Omar. Bjorn style. If I was going to shapeshift... Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. LA traffic can be such... don't trust the bee in apartment 23. I'm telling you, buddy. I would shapeshift into...
That's John Ritter's daughter, by the way.
Is that really? Really? Is that her?
Yep.
Funny show.
From Three's Company.
Yeah? Really?
Yep.
The John Ritter.
Yeah.
Who's on the actual side of
dead John Ritter.
Hollywood High School, on that beautiful mural that has Lawrence Fishburne, Brandy, Carol Burnett, and of course John Ritter. But going forward, I would have shapeshifted into something probably close to Sebastian, maybe a hedgehog, from human to hedgehog.
I don't agree with that.
No one would know who I was except Radagast, my friend. He'd be the only one who knew who I really was, and I could hide out and duck cover and roll with my little spikes. I could stay out of harm's way until all the harm had gone away. How's that?
Ervandi just had
How
a
about
birthday. She said she just got DOS, Destination of Smaug, on DVD for her birthday yesterday.
Oh, excellent. Have we heard any reviews of the 3D, the actual look of the 3D as it was reproduced on the Blu-ray edition?
Oh, I don't know.
'Cause
does anybody have a 3D TV?
I personally saw An Unexpected Journey on Blu-ray 3D. It was spectacular. It looked really, really good. This was obviously the theatrical version that I had seen. But DOS I have not seen the 3D version of on a home unit.
On a thing.
Home video
You know
does
what?
some little stops where they miss a few gaps of an image, don't they? Like
It's
sometimes...
called pull down.
Yeah, is it? That's right. It's called pull down. They lose frames sometimes.
You know,
when
we
they pull
were
it down.
just talking about, speaking of
That's
3D,
true.
I saw Godzilla in 3D, and boy,
So did I. At the IMAX at the
boy,
Chinese Theater.
it's
Were you
so
there?
good.
Wasn't it great? Yes,
It's,
high five. And when Ken Watanabe leans in real close to the audience's ear and says, "We have a word for him, Gojira," the whole audience just clapped and tittered and laughed, and it was totally a great Ken Watanabe moment.
Yes, a question from our hotline, 53064 Frodo. Cliff was the hedgehog in The Hobbit, and that's how we got our spy reports.
No, actually, I was a little psychedelic mushroom on the side of the tree in Mirkwood. That's what I was.
So, there's a lot of Lord of the Rings connections to Godzilla.
How? Oh, well, Jim Rigel and
we were just
Ethan Van Der Ven. I saw their names.
Ethan Van Der Ven was another one.
I saw their names in the opening credits.
Isn't it amazing?
I leaned
Top
in,
line, above the line.
Absolutely above the line. I mean,
that's
single
salaried position.
Single title card credit. And the opening, when that really weird montage of footage was going on, it was like quasi 50s newsreel footage, and they were showing how they tried to blow up the creature the first time at this certain bikini atoll. Oops, spoilers in the opening 30 seconds of the film, but it's not a spoiler if it's in the opening credits.
If you remember,
it's not a spoiler.
Ethan Van Der Ven was a sound designer, right?
Oscar-winning
sound designer of the trilogy
of the Lord of the Rings. He was fantastic.
He used all three. He did all three of them.
Oh, look at that! That old 1998 Roland Emmerich crap is there. The old
I saw
Godzilla.
Elijah.
Do you see that?
I saw Elijah right
Well,
there.
there's Elijah. I'm looking at the Godzilla.
Okay.
There.
Oh
Gojira.
yeah. Animal New York. But yeah, they've got the visual effects supervisor of Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
They've got the sound designer,
Oscar-winning.
Oscar-winning sound
Both,
designer,
and
Both
of course
Oscar-
Jim Rigel, both Oscar holders.
Now, they're we got to give a little more credit to Jim Rigel. Had a bunch of people involved. People want to credit Richard Taylor for everything at Weta, but Richard Taylor was focused on the practical effects, building the suits and the sets and the bigaches and everything else like that. Jim did everything digital, but he also had teams. He had Alex Funky on one side.
He's a great guy.
He had Dan Henna on the other.
Alex Funky came to our Unexpected Journey Oscar party.
Yes.
The big TheOneRing.net
So did Dan
party.
Henna.
Yes, he did, as a matter of
Right?
fact.
Yeah.
Well, so did Sala Baker, and so did Dominic and Billy and everybody. They were all there.
Yeah. So
what a night.
But Dan Henna, Alex Funky, Jim Rigel, and Richard Taylor were kind of the quadfecta.
The quadfecta. The quadfecta? Is that a real word?
Oscar-winning visual effects.
Anybody?
And
Bueller?
so people want to say, all right, Richard Taylor's working on The Hobbit, but he's not building as many bigatures, and there aren't as many suits of armor because they do it all digitally now.
Yes.
So Richard Taylor kind of has a lesser role, right?
He's actually had his name in the title of The Hobbit moved over to costume design.
Yeah, exactly.
His name is actually moved
And
over almost completely from
Alex
one area
Funky
to another area.
Is I don't think Alex Funky is involved in The Hobbit.
He was, yeah. That's why he was
he
at our
was.
Oscar party. Yes.
Oh, that's right. And so Alex Funky and Dan Henna basically took over the role that 4 people had.
Yes.
2 people now have. Mm-hmm. And you can tell the difference when there's 2 people doing 4 people's worth of work. The effects are different in The Hobbit. And you can tell it's still
They've
Oscar caliber.
had to be engineered to work with 48 frames per second. They were done completely
I think it's beyond that. And we were talking creatively. You know, Dan Henna does creature animation. You know,
Yes.
and digital sets, right? And Alex Funky does digital sets, I believe. But Jim Rigel,
Dan Henna is art director.
art director. Well, who's that?
Or production designer.
Who's the visual
Hey guys,
effects guy?
is Dan Henna the production designer?
Yeah, well, go to the chat room. But Jim Rigel on Lord of the Rings, he really was focused on atmosphere and putting the right amount of water in Helm's Deep, rain, smoke.
I have heard you
mist.
posit this theory once before, and I agree that. Getting back to your original point, it is appropriate to mention not just the person, but the whole team of people they assemble. Like, you don't want to be
1,800 people worked under
1,800 people.
Jim Rigel.
Yeah, for Lord of the Rings trilogy.
For Lord of the Rings.
And under Jim Rigel for Godzilla, I'm sure he had a similar army.
He had about
of
800 people.
digital artisans. Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
But if you watch
93 million opening weekend, stormed the box
just
office.
in the U.S., 103 million worldwide.
Huge.
And it's opening 200 million.
And it's
already.
opening in Japan 2 months from now.
China.
Well, China gets it first. Japan gets it even after China.
Really?
Yeah. The release pattern worldwide for Godzilla is extremely odd this time around. And I'm pointing it out because I think it's kind of ironic that Japan, the source of this great modern nuclear mythology, post-nuclear mythology, it is such a Japanese thing, and yet they're getting to see it last. They're the last territory internationally to get the major wide release of Godzilla.
That's curious.
Weird, but that's how they're doing it this way. Anyways, probably has something to do with piracy online or
But
something
you can
like
definitely
that,
tell if you're watching, if you stay through the credits, you'll notice that Weta is in the credits, but it's after like 5 other visual effects houses. So you've got Frame Store, you've got all these visual effects houses that did most of the work, but then Weta has its own, and there aren't as many names, but there are a few key names. Richard Taylor is credited with creature design.
He is? Really?
Yeah, Richard Taylor is credited with
Really?
So when the filmmakers at Legendary Entertainment and they hired Jim Rigel, said we need the best creature designer in town, Jim calls Richard at Weta
Of
and
course.
says we need to
get that.
redo.
I get that.
And so our friend Greg Broadmoor,
Oh,
our friend Greg Broadmoor, who you met at Comic-Con
I
last
love
year.
Greg Broadmoor. He's the funny guy at Comic-Con.
So
He's
we're
the greatest
working
character.
on getting approvals.
He's created the world of Dr. Groardboards, which is this kind of H.G. Wells influenced kind of steampunkish hyper sci-fi fantasy
A lot
crossover.
of the stuff you see at Comic-Con at the Weta booth. But so Greg
Love
Broadmoor,
Greg Broadmoor.
actually did a lot of the work designing Godzilla himself. Other Weta artists did the other creatures.
Yes.
So Greg Broadmoor has this portfolio of wonderful sketches of the evolution of how do you take this old man in suit and make him a digital creature that's relevant. So he's got all these wonderful sketches. We're working to get the rights from the studio so we can publish it. But it's so Richard Taylor has a credit, and
Nice.
Andy Serkis also has a credit for creature performance.
Really,
That's very
Andy?
interesting.
You
Mike Lee is here. We were just talking about Transformers. It's such a good one.
I appreciate that you were looking at the end credits that closely.
Yeah, so
At the end of
Andy
Godzilla,
Serkis,
and we
why
see-
is he credited for creature performance and Richard Taylor's credit for creature design? So there's a lot of rumors and hints and allegations going on. Here's what we think we know, what we've heard from our friends on the project.
Okay,
is
enlighten us.
all right.
Enlighten us, please.
So Godzilla, of course, is Godzilla. He's
got
not a man in suit.
He's got the dirt.
Freaking creature. But if you notice on the final battle of Godzilla, when he fights the final creature, there's this scene where he does this thing, rips open a jaw, and pours magic down his throat, and it.
Magic? What kind of Godzilla fan are you?
Not
This is my first Godzilla movie. What do you call it?
Atomic breath.
Atomic breath. They don't even say that in the movie.
this guy. This guy's out of control.
So, but when that happens, if you notice, if you
And you are-
if you've seen,
You should have given the audience a proper spoiler warning before you even opened your mouth. Here.
look, you're gonna
okay?
see it anyway. But if you notice
Was that the moment that was Andy Serkis's?
the move that he
mocap?
does is straight out of King Kong, and what we've heard is that Weta actually shared some of their mocap digital files from King Kong. Some of the performance capture that Andy did for King Kong in the T-Rex battle, where he breaks the T-Rex's jaw. They actually shared that with the visual effects company. So they didn't Andy Serkis didn't actually do any new mocap.
Oh, really?
But he
So that's the scoop.
So technically he did mocap. His mocap is in the performance of Godzilla.
Exciting and interesting, yet it's something borrowed, something blue, basically.
Yeah,
from
that
a previous
Godzilla,
production.
Godzilla breath was blue. I don't understand it. They never explained it. Everything else is nuclear red.
Hardly
but then
anything.
Godzilla-
Anything in it is fully explained.
Why is Godzilla's
Except for
breath
one-
blue? It doesn't
one-
make any sense.
Breathlessly uttered sentence from Ken Watanabe, and if you missed that sentence because you went to the restroom, then you missed the whole, raison d'être of Godzilla. So yeah, it's kind of like, That's how they did it. They borrowed Andy's old King Kong
They borrowed it.
mocap
So
files.
Andy gets a credit without doing any work. And they get
Really?
they get the benefit of using
find that very odd.
top-notch mocap from Top Notch. It's just like
But hasn't mocap expanded technically since
No,
King
the
Kong was
data
made?
is the data. Like if it's to accentuate the stuff that they've already done.
Fascinating.
Yes.
This is really interesting.
But it's
I
common
have
in
not thought of
Hollywood
this.
to reuse movie stuff, and especially Michael Bay. He's famously in Transformers 3, going back to Transformers 3, which we were just talking about. Michael Bay reused footage from The Island and footage from Bad Boys.
Really?
And
I like
they-
The Island. The Island is a really
It was
cool,
really great.
really cool movie.
Yeah,
Michael Bay did something halfway better than decent. Really better than
And it was
decent.
his lowest performing movie. Go figure.
Uh,
People don't want good,
I don't
smart
understand.
filmmaking.
Oh,
they
they
just want
should, man. It
loud
was so
boom.
good. No, The Island was so good.
So in our, the Wall Street Journal asked us to vote to battle to debate whether Smaug could defeat Godzilla. And after seeing Godzilla, I have to say it would be a tough battle. I think Smaug would have a hard time beating Godzilla.
You think?
That I don't care how smart Smaug is and how clever he thinks he can be.
His
Godzilla
undoing
is
is his ego, and Godzilla doesn't display any ego of any kind whatsoever.
No, he just has a big old tail that just.
He's just a force of nature.
Oh, but he literally is. Is this a
Literally.
building? I'm sorry. I thought it was pickup sticks. Like, It should, like, nothing gets in his way.
I really liked going into the renovated Chinese theater, and I really liked seeing this movie on IMAX 3D, much the way I had seen it in IMAX 3D HFR when I saw The Desolation of Smaug.
So we have a question.
I really, really enjoyed the Godzilla experience because of the theatrical format. I would not have appreciated, like someone watching Desolation of Smaug for the first time on an airplane when they're making a transatlantic flight and they're watching it on a screen only smaller than an iPad. That's not the way to see Desolation of Smaug. Certainly not the way to see Godzilla. I recommend you guys pay attention to the film format and how it bears some relevance to your appreciation of the experience. Pacific Rim deserves direct comparison to Godzilla in the marketplace right now. You're dealing with kaiju, you're dealing with giant Japanese monsters, but one thing is that there are no human influences in the plot of Godzilla.
No.
Godzilla is completely about the force of nature, and all the human beings in the whole story are helpless in the face of this, which is part of the point.
I feel like
that's the point of the story,
I feel
actually.
like Pacific Rim should have come out after Godzilla.
You think there would have been a boost for it?
Absolutely.
Do you think?
I think people were just unfamiliar with kaiju. They're like, kaiju.
Okay,
What's a kaiju?
yeah. And now?
And now people are like, give me more.
Now we call them MOTU. M-O-T-U.
Muto.
What? Muto. What was the acronym? I struggled to remember the acronym that was explained.
Someone in the chat room says,
for Muto.
When Smaug flies, does he have to poop? And what does the bird poop feel like from a dragon?
Massive underground terrestrial organism. Is that it? M-U-T-O? Muto.
You know, speaking of dragons,
I ignored that awful thing you just said.
There's a lot of dragons and beasts coming up this year. I mean, just look at some of these beasts coming up. We've had Godzilla this week.
What do we have?
We've got Dinobots breathing fire. When did
It's an
Grimlock?
actual Grimlock character.
When did Grimlock start breathing fire? And of course, a few weeks after that, we've got Toothless and How to Train Your Dragon
2,
which is amazing. And then
I love the first How to Train Your Dragon. It was super fun. Super fun.
I mean, so this year is all about fire-breathing beasts. Look at that. We've got freaking Godzilla and his fire breath. We've got Grimlock and his fire breath. We've got Toothless and his fire breath.
And we have more Smaug coming up.
And then we have Smaug.
Wow, this really is the year of the dragon. It's the year of the cinematic dragon in a much bigger way than I first
I love it. It's so good.
Well, that's interesting to see that Grimlock has been tinkered with again by Michael Bay to become a fire-breathing plesiosaur or whatever he is.
Hey, question for our Godzilla experts.
Endless tinkering.
If Godzilla poops, is it radioactive?
Yes, because these creatures live and eat radioactive material, so their waste must also be radioactive. If their bodies even metabolize things in such a way where they have any waste product. We don't even know that. We don't even know enough about their, endocrine system and their digestive system. We just don't know enough scientifically about the movie. As much as I enjoyed it, is very, very, very short on its science. The science fiction is just kind of, there's no science there. You might as well just call it fiction instead of science fiction, because the science is paper thin. It's not even mentioned in the movie.
Fine. I don't need science.
It's paper thin.
I don't need science. I don't need
to explain your kaiju. Yeah. Well, in Pacific Rim, you get some real serious explanations of where the kaiju are coming from in this interdimensional trans-time rift that's at the bottom of the seafloor of all places.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
There's a lot of questions.
World building takes a lot of work on the part of sci-fi writers, and good sci-fi writers usually take a lot of time and a lot of thoughtfulness to put together world building structures that are soundproof, watertight. I would question whether or not Godzilla's science is completely watertight.
And you better believe
but
when
I don't care. I just love the monsters.
They definitely talk about poop on set.
On the set?
Oh yeah.
Of Godzilla?
Of all those creature movies. World building involves feces.
Well, in Jurassic Park, you get a featured turd that's the size of an RV.
Speaking,
Spielberg went there for the literal turd.
Speaking of poodoo,
in the Flintstones, there's a massive pterodactyl poop joke where an automobile driven by some members or citizens of Bedrock end up getting splattered by giant dinosaur poop. What? Some filmmakers take it too far.
Ready for this segue?
What?
Ready for this segue?
Okay, I'm ready.
So, Poodoo is in
Bantha Poodoo.
Well, it's also Jar Jar Binks steps in Poodoo.
Yeah, Jar Jar steps in
point.
it.
And that brings us to our next topic, which is Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Yes.
As you know, it's the 15th anniversary.
Is it? Oh, God.
May 19th, 1999, is when Episode 1 came out, and everybody was introduced to Jar Jar in a fully realized digital character. But you know who else had his first feature film role in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace?
Jake Lloyd. Yay! Yippee!
Not Jake Lloyd. We're talking about Thorin Oakenshield himself.
That's right, Richard
Armitage. Look at this picture right here.
That's him. Oh, yeah.
Richard Armitage was part of the Queen's Guard.
Put that yellow arrow on him.
He's in 3 different scenes. I
remember when they had the ropes and they're trying to climb up the ropes to break into the palace.
Yeah, we've got a picture of that as well.
We got a shot of that when he's with the group of people climbing the ropes outside the window.
Is that the next picture?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they have these grappling hooks.
Richard Armitage.
Those grappling hooks to climb up the windows.
Yeah,
outside.
so Richard Armitage, and the funny thing is,
on
Naboo. On Naboo.
He's the Nabooan Guard.
Yes, right.
One of
Who
the
knew
captains
that they
of
had
the Naboo.
Thor and Oakenshield on their side?
How do you pronounce? What is the correct pronunciation of a citizen of Naboo? Are they Nabooian? Or are they Nabooan?
Nabooan.
Are they Nabooan or Nabooian? Do you guys know? Anyway,
that's a good question. They're Gungan.
No, they're not Gungans. It's a different species. Smack you upside the head.
So Richard Armitage, and it's funny. He's gone on the record saying that in the final movie, his character has some lines, but it's not his voice. He's like he felt it was weird that he was on set and he did these scenes and he said some lines, but then they dubbed his voice with someone else's voice.
How'd that happen? How did that happen?
A young actor. Maybe he didn't have the throaty.
Thorin
thing that he has now.
Here I come to save the day.
Far away.
The deep voice of Thorin.
They're just Naboo. So
they're just Naboo. Yeah, maybe
Thorin
that's correct.
Oakenshield.
Maybe they're just Naboo.
Richard Armitage is the king of all cameos. Because look at this right here. Captain America himself beats up Richard Armitage.
Is that in the recent Winter Soldier?
No, that's the first Captain America, the first Avenger.
The first Avenger.
Richard Armitage.
I didn't know that.
Is a German spy, and Captain America
really
gets him. So you want to talk about? I wonder if he gets residuals on all 3.
You mean that was Richard Armitage in that whole long chase sequence?
Yes.
Where he breaks out of the lab, and the first thing that the character does, shirtless. Much to the pleasure of the ladies in the auditorium, he runs and chases after all those cars and through the streets, and that's him. That was Richard Armitage. I never knew that was Armitage.
Right.
Wow.
So there you go.
I learned something surprising.
You got Richard
today.
Armitage. Thorin Oakenshield is in Star Wars, which is celebrating its 15th anniversary from Episode 1, the very first prequel trilogy. And I guarantee you, we wouldn't have a prequel trilogy now if that prequel trilogy hadn't made $1 billion before.
Let me ask you something.
Yes.
A brand new person comes to Star Wars who's never seen any of them before. Do I start him with episodes 1, 2, and 3? Or do I really go back to 1977 and start from the origin point of those films, the way they were released?
No, there's actually a big theory about the proper viewing order of Star Wars. And
extend the question to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings after we're done answering this part of the question.
Yes. And I think there will be a similar answer for the Middle Earth series. But for Star Wars, the current thinking, the best way to introduce new people to Star Wars: 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, 1.
Really?
So you start with the original 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, 1.
Really?
And here's the theory. Star Wars.
Oh, because that way you don't get to see the conclusion of what really happens with that story arc. I get it. So I get that.
And it sets it up perfectly.
I do get that.
If stay with me here.
Okay.
Star Wars, the first movie,
yes,
is Impact 1977.
A New Hope.
It opens with that epic battleship that you've never seen before,
right?
In any way,
and it's this unbelievably long extended shot.
Introduces
under the belly of it.
Was
it a Galactic Destroyer? The first ship we see. Yes.
So it introduces all the characters. The pacing is right. The
humor is right.
Wars.
The adventure is
it's
right.
Star Wars.
And it's the first
right?
Star Wars.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the saga continues into episode 5. He's starting to become a Jedi. He meets Yoda for the first time.
Brilliant.
And then at the end of that movie, he's just met his father. He's just battled his father. He's just lost his arm. And at the end of Empire,
Yes.
Luke is staring out the window with a mechanical arm, absorbing everything, all of the knowledge and the history that he just received, either through knowledge of the Force and through confirmation that Vader is his father. And so, if you jump from that final scene of Luke staring out the window at the galaxies, then you jump back to episode 2, and there is his father as a teenager, hopelessly falling in love, torn between religion and work and love and patriotism and all that stuff. And you've got this wonderful story arc of Hayden Christensen and Anakin choosing doing episode 2 and then episode 3, where he actually becomes Vader. Then you jump to episode 6, and it's the epic battle of Vader and the Emperor.
And you've gotten
versus
both
Luke.
of their backstories. You
Now
get
you've
Luke's backstory first with 4 and 5.
Yep.
Then you get Anakin's backstory, and then you get the ultimate resolution, and you entirely skip the pointless episode 1.
And it makes
I
episode
love it.
It makes
I
episode
love that.
6 that much better.
It does?
Because now you're coming into episode 6
With both of their
with
backstories.
both of their
Yes.
stories, and who's going to choose?
Yes.
It makes episode 6 a better movie, if that's possible. It
I
does.
love this theory, and I will go with it from going forward.
So if you think we overthink this, Yannick, wait until the third Hobbit movie, where fans will be debating what is the proper order for Middle Earth.
Exactly. This extends the conversation to the point where I wanted to bring it. Full circle around, ladies
Yep.
and gentlemen. Stay with me now. Thank you.
Go ahead.
This is fascinating to think of the existing hexology of Star Wars films, not counting the new one that J.J. Abrams is already in production on. But you've just reduced it from a hexology to a quintology.
And then you can watch episode 1 if you want extra stuff.
Well,
It's like bonus footage.
it's just a pod race.
Yeah.
It's an interesting pod race, and
It's like, more Star Wars.
a comedic shot of Jabba's wife in bad drag.
That's how
That's
I
about
feel,
it.
That's how
all
I
there
feel
is.
about The Hobbit 1: An Unexpected Journey. It's
No.
a lot of fluff that doesn't get me anywhere.
Well, no, all that fluff that you call doesn't get you anywhere. That you call unnecessary.
It
it's-
includes a white orc bad guy that is totally irrelevant to the second movie. Like, it's a throwaway.
Bless me.
It's
me.
not a throwaway. That's overstating
me.
it. But the
Somebody, bless me. Where's the Pope? Is the
The-
Pope visiting?
and,
Someone
and,
bless
and,
me.
and the goblin has no use to the overall story. Like, you could take the Hobbit out of the Middle Earth series and it would still stand.
The essential stuff in The Hobbit Part 1 that is seriously connected to what will be the hexology of Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, all 6 films together, is the meeting of the White Council. The establishment of the hierarchy of power, that Saruman is at the top of that, and Gandalf is a subordinate of Saruman. That is so essential to the idea that Saruman becomes a traitor in the opening, 15 minutes of Fellowship of the Ring. It has to be established. It is not fluff. It is essential. It has to be there. Amid other interesting things, Bilbo's regard for his Tookish side of his family. Bilbo's regard for not just his Baggins self,
Bless you,
but
Cliff.
his regard for his Tookish self. The establishment of Bilbo's antagonistic relationship with the Sackville Bagginses, all these lovely little things that are in An Unexpected Journey, the existence of Rivendell, the fact that Elrond, half-elven, invites Bilbo to stay in Rivendell. All that stuff is really good. I really liked it. You could take some of the endless chase scenes, running through the fields, and Radagast leads the wargs around in the wrong direction. You could trim a lot of that stuff out, but I don't think you can completely eradicate a whole Hobbit film the way that you can easily eradicate a Star Wars film out of that hexology.
Well,
I don't think you can do that.
Here's the interesting.
Don't play with me.
Are there? Star Wars does not have flashbacks. That's the interesting thing. And if you notice, a lot of the Marvel
I have
films.
noticed that. Now that you mention.
So if you look at almost
no
all
flashbacks.
films, even Godzilla, even Marvel films, even Peter Jackson films, all of Peter Jackson's films open with.
You could say that there's a flashback, which is the opening prologue of Lord of the Rings films. The opening prologue of each Lord of the Rings film is a flashback.
So you could take and so
when Smeagol was still Smeagol,
and he gets the ring. So
maybe a flashback in Frodo's dream
even
when
in the
Gandalf
middle
fell.
of the movies, even in the middle movies, they show Bilbo getting the ring.
They do?
Yeah, is it in Fellowship where Bilbo gets the ring? Yeah, and you hear Gollum go no.
Yeah, that's in the prologue.
Okay.
All the prologues are.
That's
considered.
So, but Star Wars doesn't have any flashbacks. So, because Lord of the Rings has flashbacks, you have an opportunity to take out the small meaty parts of the first Hobbit movie and just put them in, because the visual storytelling that Peter Jackson does includes flashbacks. So it's there. In Star Wars, you can't do that because there aren't any flashbacks in Star Wars.
That
goes to show you the storytelling talent and skill that George Lucas has that nobody else has. Like he doesn't get enough credit. That man not only creates worlds and characters, he creates stories. He creates galaxies around these characters.
Agreed.
And everything makes sense, and there's no flashbacks. So there's something interesting there.
That is fascinating, and I will admit, and I this is the only thing I'll
There's
ever...
a lot to cut out of Unexpected Journey, but go ahead.
There's some stuff to cut out, but there's more to cut out of Desolation of Smaug. There is much more to cut out of DOS than there is to cut out of AUJ.
Not at all!
The stuff that is in AUJ sticks so close to Tolkien.
Oh, see, now you're coming at it from
DOS.
You're coming at
No. This is what our webcast is all about. You guys in the chat room, do you agree or disagree that An Unexpected Journey has more fidelity to Tolkien's book than Desolation of Smaug ever could? Yes or no? Agree or disagree? We're dying to hear some feedback from you.
Battle of Azanul Bazaar. Why didn't Thorin's brother make it into the film? He died in that battle.
Thorin's brother is not mentioned, but his father is mentioned as mad or gone missing or taken prisoner. We don't know
and
what.
He's been taken out of the trilogy completely.
Evidently, he has been taken out of the trilogy entirely. Unless he shows up in some other...
I don't think so. I hope he doesn't. Thrain has no place in this story.
Well, we still have scenes in Dol Guldur that have not been resolved yet. So we're not out of the frying pan yet.
If they give Thrain a hero's arc, if they make Thrain save the day somehow, I'm going to be pissed. Thrain does not save the day.
No, the White Council is supposed to come and save the day. That's why Radagast was sent by Gandalf to go set the message to Galadriel of what he was doing.
There's no reason to include Thrain.
Not anymore, but the stuff,
there isn't.
You know, the stuff that happened in Dol Guldur with Gandalf should have included, a flashback to, I remember the last time I was here, it's when I bumped into Thrain. That's how he got the map. That explains what was left unexplained in An Unexpected Journey of how Gandalf got that map in the first place.
See, that's the thing with Peter Jackson. He's already told you the backstory, so you don't need to show it
He's
now.
tinkering with it, again and again and again. But
I'm telling you, special edition, extended edition.
The extended edition of Desolation of Smaug is going to perhaps include some things that we do not know yet may be included. Some things may be included that we do not yet realize are so relevant to what we're talking about right now. Who knows?
Cliff, when do you think the Battle of Five Armies, BOFA, trailer will come out? Seems weird that PJ hasn't released a production video. I can tell you right now that everything got put on hold because they changed the title. And so they had to renegotiate with all their effects houses like Trailer Park and Ignition to redo the title creative. Now they have to retitle everything. Now
they have to retitle all the printouts.
The trailer was almost done.
Oh, I bet it was. But how about the extra material that they were going to do for toys and refrigerator magnets and merchandise?
They learned their lesson on the first Hobbit movie. too early, too soon. Remember all the Toriel toys
that were pulled.
for Unexpected Journey?
Oh, the Toriel and Legolas toys that show up in a double toy pack that says An Unexpected Journey on it.
That proves
Wow.
that
And they're not even in the
Toriel
movie now.
was supposed to be in
It's proof of further tinkering, like I said last week.
the first movie.
Just tinkering
I'm
with
telling
it.
you, the first movie was supposed to end at the end of the rapids.
It was. We know that.
I'm ready for.
We know the movie
I'm
was
ready for
supposed
the
to
fan
end-
edit. Where's the Phantom edit?
the fan to edit.
Where's the edit that combines the first two Hobbit movies into the one movie it was supposed to be?
Where's the fan edit that's going to completely replace Balg and put Azog back in every shot from DOS?
Yes.
So it's all Azog again. Who's the fan who's going to do that?
It's like they didn't understand what people were complaining about. It wasn't that we were complaining about Azog as Azog. It was that it was a digital creature. And so what's he do? Oh, let's just... They don't like Azog. Let's just give him Balg.
Let's just give him Balg instead.
With the same skin color.
We just change the animation, use the same mocap, and Legolas still looks exactly the same. We just drop in a different boss monster. How about that?
When it was
Well-
two movies, it was supposed to end with Bard. Yes, the final shot was supposed to... The final thing was like supposed to be Bard going...
Bard standing there with
Hello.
that arrow over
Yeah.
their neck, saying,
And then cut to black.
"Yeah, that was the cliffhanger he was supposed to
It was
get."
good, like the end, and then cut to black, and
I'm
then
quite
like
sure.
to be continued, like Back to the Future.
I'll tell you what we cannot expect. There will be no more musical numbers. Like in An Unexpected Journey, one of the great pleasures we did have
There should be music.
were
numbers.
dwarves singing, elves playing harps, there's music, there are actual songs, and you know what? Hey, my karaoke host, you know the guy I hired for my birthday party?
Yes.
He just got the Ed Sheeran song from the end of Desolation of Smaug. I See
Ed Sheeran's
Fire.
kind of popular.
Yeah, he is. He's been
I
writing
had
hit
no
songs
idea.
for One Direction. But karaoke people who run karaoke lounges
he's
now
got
have
his
that
own.
song from The Hobbit. So, ladies and gentlemen, the next time you go out to karaoke, ask your karaoke host if he has the most up-to-date song files, and he might have the song from The Hobbit. And it's a great crowd pleaser.
Eravani
It's a
in the
really
chat
good
room
song. I
says,
love doing that.
I
in
wanted
a
them
crowd.
to kill the
It's really
dang
good.
dragon, dagnabbit.
I wanted them to kill the dang nab dragon.
No, I'm glad.
I was so frustrated that dragon was still alive. But that's the nature of a cliffhanger.
You know, my
That's the
biggest
nature of the beast.
biggest problem right now is that Warner Brothers has a dragon movie on its hands, where we all want to see the dragon, and you know, all I'm seeing is freaking
You know what?
Dinobots
We
everywhere.
we should be having toys now of
I
Smaug.
want Smaug everywhere. I want Smaug hovering over buildings for the next 6 months.
Where are the Smaug toys? Where are the Smaug toys?
Where are the toys? Where's anything? You see Grimlock everywhere. There are Dinobots everywhere you turn. They're on
Yes.
every bus shelter. They're on
Yep.
every billboard.
And soon they're going to be in every Target and in
Cardboard
every
standees.
Kmart.
You see the cardboard standees of
Yes,
Dinobots?
they're huge.
Like,
They're huge. The
it's like-
Dinobots. Huh? They already are? Okay, we've got Toys R Us has Transformers toys.
So-
where's the Smaug toys?
You know, of all the
There aren't any.
Transformers, everybody just wants a Dinobot. They just want Grimlock. You know what? All we want is Smaug. Give us Smaug. Dragon. Just bury us in dragon.
They should have had the toys out all
You know
summer
what else?
long.
You know what
They
else
should
I
have had
like
the toys
is
out.
that there's this anti-Transformers viral thing where they're like, if you see a Transformers, report him. It's kind of District 9-ish.
Oh, okay, cool. I have not seen that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting ad
Well,
campaign.
there'd be something interesting to do a war propaganda type thing with the Battle of Five Armies. Not that the movie's named Battle of Five Armies. I want a war propaganda, like, you know, the dwarves are kind of this Stalinist, posters for Mother
Right.
Erebor, and then you've got Gandalf saying "I want you." Like, that'd be so good.
That would be great.
Right?
We do have one war propaganda poster already with our Tariel poster. It is our fight.
Smaug should be
Poster.
killed with the same energy as Jaws was by Chief Brody.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I totally agree with
straight out of a Michael Bay film, Smaug is getting ready to breathe fire. Bard fires the black arrow, and the fire in his belly makes Smaug explode into 1,000,000 pieces.
That would be kind of fantastic.
Just
A big, angry Smaug explosion.
And
then Martin,
bits of Smaug and scales come falling, twittering down on people.
and then our friend Stephen Fry can be dodging little chunks of dragon flesh that fall on him.
And Luke Evans going, yeah!
And Luke Evans going, America! F yeah! Like Team America. That's what Bard should say. No, smack, smack, smack.
Pop vinyl should make a Smaug toy.
We're not going to get a Michael Bay version of Smaug exploding. It's not happening.
Where the ding is all of our Smaug toys?
I do think that there's a certain problem in the toy and merchandise marketplace, which is probably being furthered by the filmmakers constantly tinkering with it and changing the title. That's why the toys are being withheld, because they changed the title.
This is why
They have to reprint all the plastic cards that go on top of the stuffed dragon.
So this is why this is a good lead-in, because a lot of filmmakers and actors complain in the process of making a movie that the studio says no, and there's a lot of like top-down like you can't do that, or we're not going to allow to do that, and
we're not going to pay for that.
We're not going to pay for that. And people will say one of the reasons Star Wars is the best film is because it had the most studio oversight. One of the reasons Fellowship is the best Lord of the Rings is because it had the most oversight, studio oversight. And now Peter Jackson can have free will and do what he wants. And George Lucas, he had free will and did what he wanted. Like when you have studio oversight,
and that's why George Lucas's output sucked on the prequels?
I think it's because of
the lack of studio oversight.
Part of it is
That's absurd.
Part of it is studio oversight. But one of the reasons you have studio oversight and the studio saying no, you can't do that. We're not going to do that, is because for the toy reasons and for many reasons. But for like the toy reason, remember when we just talked about Toriel toys during Unexpected Journey
that were accidentally released a year early.
That were released and then recalled. I guarantee you right now that there are a ton of merchandise for Hobbit There and Back Again that was already packaged, printed packaging in Mexico and China, all over the world. That says There and Back Again, blah blah blah. And I guarantee you, they are all having to either destroy that packaging, tear open the packaging that's already been ready, prepared for shipment,
or put a sticker on it.
And put a no, they're not going to put a sticker on it. Warner Brothers is saying going back. So Warner Brothers.
Wonder.
I think
that would be a shame if they were destroying.
Warner Brothers
toys
wasn't strong enough against
packaging.
Peter Jackson to say, "Look, we've already gone down this road, and you screwed us once on the first movie, by editing out those two elves." and they're like, fine, whatever you want, just go do it. And I feel like sometimes you just need to say no, and sometimes you just need, this leads into a conversation. Go ahead.
Interesting. Go ahead. I'll let you finish. This is very interesting.
I was just saying. I'm just saying that sometimes no is a good thing to say, and is a good thing to hear.
We all know what happens in Hollywood when you're surrounded by sycophants. All they ever do is say yes. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And
yes,
that's
sir,
what
yes,
Warner
ma'am.
Brothers is doing with Peter Jackson. And look at the movies. We're still going to give him $1 billion at the box office, but we're not happy. And speaking of not happy, there was a wonderful interview recently
with Viggo Mortensen.
And this is basically sums up his comments. Look at that face.
Yeah.
That basically sums up his comments. Now, unfortunately, Viggo's comments were a small part of a very larger conversation.
Yes, a much bigger
He made a
conversation.
passing thing, like, he got obsessed with toys. And it just got blown out of proportion.
It has to. That's how newspapers are sold. That's how you make headlines, is by blowing something out of proportion.
So, if you notice on the TheOneRing, we don't agree with the sensationalization of a couple throwaway comments. Because, let's admit
I don't agree with it either.
A lot of the actors have said such things. And, you know what? Look, everyone's had comments. First off, can you explain what Viggo said?
I can. Mr. Viggo Mortensen said that the experience of working on The Lord of the Rings was such that they were doing something so unheard of and organically, and they were kind of flying by the seat of their pants. And he said the pressure was absolutely out of control on Peter, and he said that kind of pressure on Peter Jackson, having gone into such a very, very expensive hole for something that was unproven, and there was a lot of nail biting going on. Viggo described what the atmosphere was like about Peter Jackson before they showed that preview footage at Cannes Film Festival.
There was a lot of biting, even on our website, on our message boards.
Especially from us.
Man. I can't even imagine what you were.
I was
about.
so skeptical. We all were skeptical.
Like,
we couldn't understand why
they're changing the cast at the last minute.
Do you know what fans were saying in 1999 and the year 2000 when we were first doing early stories?
You know what they were saying? Gay Dolph. Oh my God, the wizard's going to be gay.
And we were saying, why would you give our precious story? And this was the kind of righteousness we had in our tone of voice. Why would you give our precious story to a zombie filmmaker who makes Drek, Schlockmeister films? That was our bad attitude. Then, as Viggo appropriately points out, then everyone shut the hell up after they saw the footage at the Cannes Film Festival, which was the main part of the battle sequence with the cave troll in Balin's tomb, and the flight from the approaching Balrog, and the amazing action sequence, which is the early climax of Fellowship of the Ring. Because the fight with Lurtz is not really the big climax of the film. It comes earlier in the film, about 30 minutes earlier before it should, in the Mines of Moria sequence. When that stuff was shown at Cannes, as Viggo points out, everybody was like, holy Toledo, this is something special. This is going to be amazing. This is going to be amazing. And everybody really changed their tune. And then the pressure really got tightened, and it became a white-knuckle experience for Peter to finish that first film. Then Viggo goes on to explain, after what came together so cohesively because of that pressure cooker environment on Peter, the second and the third films became a little bit more wan in their approach to drama and reinforcement of character and dramatic moments, which had to give way for spectacle and had to give way for bigger battle set pieces. And he said that's when things started to slip a little bit. And that's why Viggo said that the quality of the films disintegrated a little bit. And he said, now you got that times 60 in The Hobbit, where the quality of the films has no pressure on Peter Jackson to do any of the innovating that he had to do in Fellowship to get it done. See what I'm saying?
Viggo's
it was very interesting.
Yeah, Viggo's comments were not meant to criticize, but they were just to show context.
Context that Peter, as an artist, was operating in a minor mode as opposed to operating at maximum mode with all those things on top of him that created that output from him. And that includes the environment, the relationship he had with New Line Cinema, and the risk that was being taken as an unproven voice in the cinematic wilderness. No one knew what the hell he was going to do. We knew Heavenly Creatures was a great film. We had no idea what Fellowship of the Ring could become until that Cannes footage was shown at the French Film Festival.
I'm way oversimplifying it, but
Viggo did point out that's why The Hobbit is to all of our glancing viewpoints. The Hobbit is a minor work compared to a major work as far as cinema goes. That was Viggo's ultimate point.
And if you look at it from this perspective, on Lord of the Rings, Warner Brothers was doing Peter Jackson a favor, saying, have at it, kid. And then here, on The Hobbit, Peter Jackson is doing Warner Brothers a favor, saying,
yes.
all right, I'll give you this.
Yes.
So it's a different, he's coming from a different place. He's got nothing to prove. And
he's got nothing to prove.
He's working for a studio that he sued for $30 million.
That puts a certain color on things, doesn't it?
You remember that lawsuit was 18 months in the making.
Yeah, a certain gloss that you put on things. And
he's working for people that didn't even support him. They didn't bring back Mark Rordesky. They didn't bring back
Barry Osborne. Oh, the critical linchpin is that we were working with Zane. What's his name? Zane Weiner, instead of Mark Rordesky and Barry Osborne.
So you've got a whole different hierarchy and a whole different perspective,
a different mindset that from the artist's point of view.
That's what Viggo was trying to say, is that it's not that he's just gotten worse as a filmmaker. It's that the priorities have changed, the dynamics have changed, and now he's operating at a different level. And Viggo personally doesn't agree, doesn't like the style that he's operating at now. It's just different. But you have to remember
So
Viggo
that
is
kind of
coming-
ruins the rumors that we would ever see Viggo Mortensen show up as in a cameo in this last third Hobbit
Yeah.
film.
But you
that
can-
puts that to rest forever.
Well, money changes everything. But you can
Well,
also look at it from Viggo's perspective. Again, he was not their first choice. He wasn't their second choice. He wasn't even their third choice.
He was their second choice, wasn't he?
Nope. I recall Nicolas Cage being offered the role. I recall Stuart Townsend being given the role.
Yeah, I know
I
that.
recall
We know that.
a few other actors that were offered the role.
Who? Who else was offered the role besides Viggo?
There were other people. You can look it up. It's all in our archives, rumors.
Really?
But
I'm very
so
curious
Viggo
about
wasn't even hired.
hearsay.
And he wasn't even hired until after they'd started shooting. And they're like, this Stuart Townsend guy, he doesn't want to ride a horse. This ain't gonna work.
Is that how Dean O'Gorman feels, that he had to replace Rob Kaczynski?
That was a different thing because Rob Kaczynski had this other TV show or something.
Yeah.
And so that made sense. They actually fired Stuart Townsend because he wasn't performing.
They fired Stuart Townsend quite on his.
But
they kicked him on the ass can because he wouldn't do his job.
Yeah. So Viggo was brought
Literally,
in.
he was a lazy actor.
Viggo
Sorry,
didn't go
Stuart.
through all the same processes, right?
Yeah.
He was like fifth rung on the bench, and they had to convince him, "Hey, upend your family for 3 years and come."
Like Michael Sam, 7th drafting round before he gets picked.
And Viggo is very selective
But we love you,
on
Michael
his on his roles and the choices, and he's very much a lover of scripts, great scripts.
Viggo was not interested in doing this role of Aragorn until his 12-year-old son, who passionately loved Tolkien's work, convinced him to do it.
And if you
He didn't want to break his son's heart. That's why he chose to do it.
And if you can imagine that, a thespian like that, he's very by the book. He wants it. He wants to make his films like Cronenberg makes, and very. Here's the script. We're gonna shoot the script. We're gonna edit that script and maybe make a few changes. But Viggo was given a script at the last minute, saying you have 48 hours to decide.
Yeah.
He had to make a decision in 48 hours. He was under the gun. The script was good enough, and then he goes, and then Peter says, "You know what? The scripts for the second two movies, whatever. We're not gonna throw that elf in there. We're gonna take that. We're gonna move that over here, and you're gonna do this over here. You know what? We're just gonna send you into the ghost cave. Can you come back and shoot that ghost cave? I know we weren't gonna do it originally, but now we need you." So Viggo is very much like ABC, and the way Peter Jackson makes his movies is like A, B, D, C, throw away Z.
3.17. Sorry.
Yeah. So if you come at it from that, if you look at the films that Viggo makes and the directors he works with, and then look at Lord of the Rings is so out of character for him. So of course he's gonna have that come away with that perspective.
It was a fascinating perspective, and it caused on our
It was
website.
everywhere.
It caused quite a bit of conversation.
It was everywhere on the
Yeah.
internet. Yahoo, CNN, Viggo Mortensen slams da-da-da.
Slams Peter Jackson, and you know what else? One of my friends, one of the actors from the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, Bruce Hopkins, who plays the Rohan captain.
He dresses the king.
He prepares the armor and dresses King Theoden in a fantastic Helm's Deep sequence.
Yes.
Right before the final battle. And it's...
Cliff, do you think the extended edition of Smaug will change your opinion of the movie?
No. No. You still have...
He hates it.
No, I don't hate it.
He hates it more than life itself.
I do not hate it more than life itself. Don't put words in my mouth.
He will never buy that DVD. He
smack
will.
you upside
he
your
will not
face.
spend his own money
Smack.
on that DVD. You will wait till someone gifts it to you for Christmas. You don't like Destination Smaug so much. I bet you won't even buy it.
I'll buy the extended edition.
I don't
but
believe
not the regular one.
I don't
which I
believe
do.
you
I
won't.
wouldn't buy the regular one anyways. But if you can give me more Beorn and you can give me more, more things that I think are...
Did Gandalf die in the preview footage at Cannes?
No. The preview footage of Fellowship of the Ring showed only the Balrog up to his first big reveal, where he comes through
That's
a
right.
busted down wall,
Yeah,
and then
and
it
it's
drops
just
to
the head.
black. You don't see the final encounter on the bridge of Khazad-dûm. It's not there. It's just not shown.
PJ will explain the wheelbarrow, and Cliff will love the movie after that.
Yeah. If he explains the wheelbarrow.
The wheelbarrow makes sense. You don't need to explain that to me. Yeah, I didn't need it explaining. It just makes sense.
That's very funny. I do appreciate that. But how about that little short video that was floating around on Facebook? You should check out Bruce Hopkins.
Gambling.
Check out Gambling. Go to Facebook and
Gambling.
click like and add Bruce Hopkins as a friend and take a look at the posting that he wrote
we
about his
interviewed
experiences filming, and he gives a response to Viggo's interview, the controversial interview that Viggo
And if you go even further back to the TheOneRing on YouTube, there's an interview with Bruce Hopkins that you were involved with, and I think you were on site, and we Skyped you in with.
We did,
and so we have a full 90-minute interview with.
We have a great interview with Bruce Hopkins. People are texting me asking me if there's got to be one redemption. You know what? I was completely redeemed and willing to redeem The Hobbit when I saw the Riddle game sequence. The sequence with Gollum and Bilbo.
It wasn't dark enough. It wasn't dark enough.
In An Unexpected Journey.
Oh my gosh.
That
whole scene needed to be a Vin Diesel movie.
The fact that we have about 50 minutes of time in Bag End before we even leave Bag End at the opening of the film, and dwarves singing their song. I loved it. That was such a wonderful quality of An Unexpected Journey. That's what I enjoyed the most. And I'll tell you what I really did like about Desolation of Smaug. I like the dialogue between Bilbo and the dragon, and I kind of liked it. And then I started to lose my mind a little bit when Thorin was riding around in that magic wheelbarrow that didn't get overheated while he was riding through a little river of molten gold. So
Tedder
then I just
says
started
Riddles
scratching
is
my
up
head,
there as
going,
one
what?
of the best of any Middle-earth scene ever.
Which one?
Riddles.
Yeah, loved it. So hey, the possibility of me being satisfied with the Battle of the Five Armies is up in the 75 or 85% range, because we're going to have Billy Connolly riding into the battle on a giant warthog, a battle hog, a boar, a wild boar. And if you've ever seen a wild European boar, they're huge.
Boars.
I saw one of them in Skansen.
The only thing I know
when I was in
about
Stockholm
boars is
recently.
that you have to kill a lot of them in World of Warcraft.
The Battle of the Five Armies promises to be pretty juicy. The betrayal of the Arkenstone.
Stop.
It's going to be so
No
cool.
spoiler. We're spoiler free.
We are not spoiler free. The book has been out for 75 bloody years.
Not Peter Jackson's story. That's
Peter
for
Jackson,
sure.
Peter Jackson's and Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens is their version of the story. Is something else entirely.
Everybody says
I'm looking forward to it.
If Riddles was as dark as in the book, we wouldn't be able to see anything. That's
right.
the whole point of Riddles in the dark. It's in the dark, and this is why I think 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, 1 might be a good sequence to watch the Lord of the Rings films, because Gollum has a wonderful visual introduction. You never quite see a full glance of Gollum until Sam has him at the throat.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You see these whispers. You see him like peek over. You see the back of him. You see his
him
arm.
crawling down the rock
You
face
don't get the full
to attack
view
Frodo and
until
Sam.
it's full on.
On the ground.
And then in The Hobbit, it's just like, oh, everybody knows what Gollum looks like, so bring out Gollum. Everybody, it's Gollum. And he's like, let's play some riddles. And there's no reveal. And if they had made it riddles in the dark, it would have maintained. Gollum still would have been a slow reveal. If it had.
Gollum didn't need to be a slow reveal.
It needed to be if you're gonna watch Hobbit 1, 2, 3, and then Lord of the Rings 4, 5, 6.
Well,
If you're gonna do that, then you still want a mystery around Gollum. And right now, he doesn't have any Gollum. It was just more of like everyone. Okay, I love Andy Serkis. I love the performance, but it needed to be dark. It's riddles in the dark.
you are out of control, man. You need to take a Ritalin or something. Gosh.
Well played, Ritalin. Dark.
Look.
Ritalin in the dark.
I have an issue with someone
I
very
see your point. Thank you, Idril.
someone very close who has already seen The Hobbit 1, The Hobbit 2, and obviously has not seen Hobbit 3 yet, And he's not all that interested in the visual world of Middle-earth after these two films. I have a feeling that instead of waiting for the last Hobbit film, I'm going to break down and I'm going to get the Blu-ray of the extended version of Lord of the Rings, and I'm going to show him all of the Lord of the Rings in order, now that we've seen Hobbit 1 and Hobbit 2, and we'll get to do all this before we even bother to go to the theaters to see Hobbit 3 at the end of the year. What do you guys think about that sequence? Because I don't know if the strength of the storytelling in The Hobbit is enough to make, my friend want to even watch the rest of it. I know the Lord of the Rings will kick his ass, and he'll be totally enraptured with it like we all were. But The Hobbit is not selling him on it. What do you think?
Tedder's in the chat room says, it was certainly made in such a way that the Hobbit films were revisiting Middle-earth. That's why Lord of the Rings needs to be watched first. The Hobbit films is revisiting Middle-earth.
They are definitely revisiting.
Instead of introducing Middle-earth.
Yes, and it feels completely different.
Yes, and there are many things that the Peter Jack, the filmmakers, could have done with the Hobbit trilogy to make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But
to make it look and feel like it was an early, first reveal of a thing.
Yeah, and Gollum, if Gollum was riddles in the dark, as the professor intended, in the dark, then we still would have had a wonderful reveal of Gollum in the Two Towers. We would have seen just enough.
Interesting point.
To keep it
interesting point.
Keep it interesting.
One of our staff writers, a very senior staff writer, who has been in the movement of Tolkien fandom since 1963, and is one of the earliest members of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Club here in Los Angeles. He called it Riddles in the Gloom. The way that
Riddles in the blue.
Riddles in the gloom, not dark.
There's so much
because
light.
It's kind of there's a lot of light in Gollum's cave in the film, but I still loved that sequence.
So much for it totally defeats everything that Gollum stands for. He's got big eyes because he lived in the dark. That sure wasn't dark.
The battle between the wargs and the goblins and the dwarves at the very end of An Unexpected Journey with the eagle's fiery rescue. I loved that. That was really glorious.
We got 15 minutes left in the show, and
we
announced the winner of our contest, official contest called #Where's Bilbo. Of course, it's inspired by Boffer. All throughout the Hobbit films, he's always saying, "Where's Bilbo?" He's the only one that ever says it. Where's Bilbo? It's only Boffer that's always, "Where's Bilbo? Where's Bilbo?" If you watch both Unexpected Journey and Desolation of Smaug, it's only Boffer that always says...
It's really James Nesbitt's character. He's the only one who cares.
He's the only one that cares about Bilbo.
That's fascinating.
I bet you Boffer is the one that escorts Bilbo back to Hobbiton. I bet you by golly. Or if you want to see Bilbo shed a tear, if you want to see Martin get emotional, I don't know if this is relevant to Tolkien's original narrative, but if you want to see Bilbo get emotional during Battle of Five Armies, he will kill Boffer in front of Bilbo. Because Boffer's the only one that has really made an effort with Bilbo.
I don't want Boffer to die.
I don't either. I wear his hat, usually. But I'm just saying, so we had a contest, Where's Bilbo, which was basically take a picture of your Desolation of Smaug DVD or Blu-ray in a wonderful creative position.
We did get some great entries.
We've got some wonderful entries. We're going to show some of our favorites here. We retweeted a few of them, but this was the winning one right here.
Yep, that was cool. With all of those sketches of all the characters round and around.
And you can just click on the next one after next one as we go through them. And that one was wonderful because it had a dragon statue. That's the type of dragon merchandise that I want to see.
Treasure chest overflowing with gold.
I want to see that official Hobbit merchandise. We don't have anything like that.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That was wonderful. It kind of mimics the out of the frying pan.
Oh, yeah, in the frying pan.
It's after the fire, actually.
That's really cool.
Some of these really need that's one we did ourselves. One of our staff writers pulled out a frying pan, threw his DVD in the frying pan like a pair of eggs and some sausage.
Oh, that's fun.
So good. I loved this Photoshop.
Oh, yeah.
I know it wasn't a photo. It was a Photoshop. It wasn't a photo, so it kind of defeated the purpose of the contest. But that's just so clever. He just looks so excited to have the DVD.
He does. That's great.
It's like Thorin. It's like yes!
Thorin's got it. Yeah.
Yes!
Oh, look, a little bunny.
That is a giant rabbit.
That's a big
How
giant
big
bunny.
is a DVD case?
Holy, that is a giant rabbit. That's a very big bunny.
That's a Roscabel rabbit if I've ever seen one.
These are Roscabel
And a baby
rabbits.
Roscabel rabbit right next to him. I mean, that baby is the size of a normal rabbit.
That's a giant bunny.
That is a giant bunny.
That's a mega bunny. I love it. That's great.
This was
Spidey
clever.
has his.
I love this Amazing Spider-Man 2. Not a Photoshop. He actually brought his DVD to the theater and took it.
Oh, that's fun.
That was clever. We got a lot of wonderful papercraft dragons and a lot of wonderful homemade Smaug dragons. Look, Warner
Is that
Brothers,
what that is?
you're messing up.
Cool.
The fact that we have more papercraft dragons and homemade dragons and actual dragon merchandise, you're messing up.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that assessment.
Okay.
For once.
This was so good.
Oh my gosh, that's
Look
so funny.
at that. That's a real eagle. The eagles came and carried Gandalf away.
That is what?
It's-
Let me take a look at that. What?
Get a close up of that. Yeah, that is no Photoshop. That's the real deal. The eagles came.
Wow.
Cliff is freaking out right now.
Oh, that is so cool. I've seen that. They strapped it to this thing and draped it around the bird's neck. That is hysterical.
It's a carrier eagle.
That's hysterical.
Isn't that amazing?
I love that.
We have giant rabbits. We have carrier eagles. What more do you want out of our fans?
When you were
Look
on
at
the
this.
set- oh, you missed the-
Look at this wonderful Smaug. Desolation of Smaug is as important as food. It is life. Tolkien is life energy. This is one of our favorites among all the staff of TheOneRing. The fact that someone actually took Bilbo home. There and back again. A total spoiler. They brought Bilbo home. He's
yep,
not
all the way
supposed
back.
to be all the way back yet. But we loved it and we posted it on the website. That was super fun.
We did get some really great entries.
Yeah, there's just so many wonderful.
Oh, I liked this one. The one that was made of Polaroids.
This was clever. Yeah,
In a row.
This was clever.
That was super cool. I did enjoy this one a lot.
Keep going.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites. That, again, another papercraft Smaug eating his DVD. Yeah, he really
That's cool.
he really wanted that thing.
Yeah, we should have more dragons in the marketplace with
I know they're all papercraft.
toys,
Kites.
the possibility of plushies and like molded, sculpted
I want
toys
razor
that have
scooters.
articulate body parts, and also the chance to have kites, refrigerator magnets, and
How about a razor scooter that I can ride a dragon around?
how about an airmobile, wind chimes. The Dragon Smaug wind chimes would be so cool.
Oh yeah. Keep going.
A little doggy.
That was clever. I love that they've made a floaty thing into TheOneRing. That was wonderful. That was it. Yeah. So those are some
Okay,
of
that's it.
Those are some of our favorite ones from the
A
contest.
very cool art contest for the DVD. We're getting questions from people on the Torn hotline.
Yes, 530-64-FRODO.
Someone asks, when you were on the set of The Lord of the Rings, you mentioned in your original Green Books story that you were a soldier for scenes in Return of the King. Did your scene make the movie? And the answer is an unequivocal yes. You can see me in The Return of the King, as plain as day, standing right next to Baragond, who is standing up on the wall, rather, the parapets, on the first level of Minas Tirith, looking out over the wall as Faramir and his men, in a very begrudging moment, take their leave of the city to go back to Osgiliath in a doomed counterattack on Osgiliath. So the video chapter on your Blu-ray or DVD is called The Sacrifice of Faramir. And right after Gandalf says the words to Faramir, "Your father loves you, Faramir. He will remember it before the end." Right after Ian McKellen says that, there's a long, long shot of all of the horses going laterally right to the side of Faramir, and they're outside the walls of Minas Tirith, after they leave the gate, and then cut to a shot of me standing on the wall, watching them all leave the city. And the citizens of Minas Tirith come and look over my shoulders, and there's Baragond, what's his name, standing next to me. And yeah, I'm plain as day visible in that shot. Thank you for asking. It was a lot of fun.
You know, there's a lot of people in the
A
chat
lot
room
of fun.
saying if Beaufort dies, I'm going to cry. People don't want Beaufort to die. And what does that say about Peter Jackson's positioning of each of the dwarves, in that everyone expects certain dwarves to die because of the text, but the ones that have struck an emotional chord, you know, we even
Yes.
have Beaufort's wife on one of our wonderful regulars.
Thanks.
Beaufort has a huge fan base, and outside of the characters that are supposed to die, according to Tolkien, outside of those characters that people are prepared to let go, there's still some characters. Peter Jackson is still capable to influence enough emotion and enough personality in some of the dwarfs, like Beaufort,
that he could kill them off and make it a big, impactful death.
People will cry.
With the animated,
My heart will break.
with the 1978 animated version of The Hobbit, the filmmakers took a great deal of creative license and killed off almost half of the entire traveling company of dwarves. Not even Tolkien himself kills off that many characters in the book. It's still a big question mark. How many characters will be killed by Fran, Philippa, and Peter? We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Cliff, is it hard for
be
you
very
to
interesting.
criticize these Hobbit movies because you have such a close connection to the filmmakers?
No, it's not hard for me to criticize the films because, you know, when I have something good to say, I'll say it. When I have something critical to say, you know, like I wish it could have been this or that, I'll say it. Back, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, when The Two Towers came out and there was this ridiculous moment where Faramir drags Frodo and Sam all the way across the river and all the way to Osgiliath, I was pulling my hair out. Literally.
Man, people
because
still. Did you see the arguments
I
on
was
our
pulling
Facebook?
my hair out. At the time, I wasn't shaving my head. I was not shaving my head back then like I am now. I had real hair to pull.
Peter Jackson's
I had
change to
real
the
hair
original
to
Lord of
pull.
the Rings text made Cliff lose
You know
his
what?
hair.
The one thing that disgusted me the most of all in The Return of the King, when Frodo sends Sam away and says, "Go home. I don't want you here anymore."
Some people walked out of the theater.
Because of Gollum's influence. That would never ever happen. Hey, I criticized them then, and I'm still criticizing them for doing that.
I remember being inside
no problem
the
with that.
theater, and Frodo and Sam are at Osgiliath, and Sam starts his epic speech, "By all rights, we shouldn't even be here," and fans just standing up saying, "You're right, you shouldn't."
Damn right, you shouldn't be there. Exactly. Do you
In
know
the
what?
theater, it was so rude. It
Yeah,
took
it
me
was
out
rude.
of the
It's
moment,
true.
and I didn't really appreciate that speech until the DVD came out because it kept getting interrupted by
fans
people
saying,
like you.
"You
that
shouldn't
were
be
just
there."
like, "Ugh."
Listen, the thing is that when I heap on the praise, I'm very generous with heaping on the praise. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. The creation of this secondary world is something that Professor Tolkien would probably appreciate, ultimately, because that was what Tolkien wrote about in his letters and in his memoirs. The act of a writer or an artist who can sub-create a sub-creation, which is meant to be an airtight, beautiful, and self-contained universe that exemplifies all the glorious, wonderful things that are in the primary world. He said that is one of the greatest celebrations of life and God, the Creator, that any writer can ever hope to achieve. So, in that metaphysical sense, Professor Tolkien might be very, very pleased with the extreme efforts that Peter Jackson and his team of artisans have gone through down in New Zealand to make a really wonderful secondary world, even though there are radical changes from the story that Tolkien would not approve of. But I'm sure he would applaud the artisans and the efforts they made for this secondary world
absolutely.
to do what it does successfully, and that has always been to transport us into Middle-earth. Although I have problems with the script, especially the script of Desolation of Smaug, I still appreciate how we are transported into Mirkwood and how beautiful Thranduil's halls are created for us mainly by John Howe and Alan Lee, artists that, Professor Tolkien would have loved and have been a big part of our history as Tolkien fans. The fact that Peter Jackson didn't hire some schmuck off the digital street that he met off of Craigslist, Peter Jackson hired John Howe and he hired Alan Lee.
Did he
to
hire
create
them, or did
absolutely
the producers, did Barry Osborne and Mark Ordesky?
Essential.
Mark Ordesky and Barry Osborne do all the hiring.
The best
That's
thing,
what producers do the hiring.
Best thing that Peter Jackson ever did besides make the film was cast and hire those actors and those artisans to work with him.
Oh yeah, he's in charge of everything.
That's the best thing he's done.
But I think
I'm
the
happy to
producers-
praise him for that. Trust me. I really am.
Peter gets a lot of credit for hiring John Howe and Alan Lee, but
But they bring like street cred. They bring it to the fans. They bring real credibility.
I agree, and they validate
visuals.
a lot of the decision making in the films.
Yes.
But I think that the producers are more responsible for their hiring, because the producers
I don't know about that.
look. The producers are in
Vanderbilt.
charge of,
Don't look now,
of
it's
hiring
Derek.
and budgets and everything. So the movie studio has given stewardship to the producers.
At this point,
And so they say, you know what, we've got Peter Jackson, we've got a pretty good cast, but we need to hedge our bets. Like, we need this.
At this point, the studio is more interested in pre-release marketing, and all they want to do is change the conversation. Instead of talking about high frame rate, which is all we ever talked about for An Unexpected Journey, now the studio wants our tone to change completely. They don't want us to worry about 48 frames per second. They want our conversation to talk about, where's Legolas run off to in the distance, and where's our favorite characters? Oh my gosh, what's going to happen to Gandalf now that our favorite character is being held prisoner? They don't want us to be disappointed anymore by all the bells and whistles that you have been complaining about for a year and a half, that Peter Jackson has been slipping into a George Lucas or George Lucasian form of technical jiggery pokery.
All agree with me.
You were always saying and have still been saying that Peter Jackson has suffered in his craft from becoming too much of a Lucasian.
Viggo agrees with me now. My point is validated by Viggo Mortensen himself. Question from Jan. Do you check your torn email? Some months ago I sent you this horrible cliffhanger joke. The short answer is not always. The One Ring is a volunteer effort. Everybody that posts on the One Ring, even does this show, we're all volunteers, and it takes a lot of effort. You think we just talked for 90 minutes, but we spend a day preparing all this media and preparing what we're going to talk about. So the answer is no, we don't check our email a lot.
I don't.
Cliff definitely.
I never check my email.
Cliff
I'm very
never
bad
checks
at that.
his email. The only time I ever talk to Cliff is when he shows up for the show late. So the answer is, Jan, if you email us, we might check it in a couple months.
The best laid plans.
Best
What's the
laid
phrase?
cliffs.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Is that the phrase?
Mordor?
Something like that.
So as we close out tonight, someone was asking, do we think the third Hobbit movie will be the best movie?
I think the third Hobbit film will be, hopefully, the least plot-heavy and the most action-driven. That's what I anticipate.
I think it'll be the best Hobbit film of the three. Just for Billy Connolly.
I'm still very fond of the first film, more than the second. But that's me.
45236. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is Torn Tuesday. Every Tuesday here at 5 to 6:30 p.m.
Always lovely. Always lovely.
Live from Meltdown Comics.
Thank you for reminding our audience, because I'm sure they know this already, but we're here every Tuesday at 5 p.m.
So if we might or might not post this on YouTube, so you never know if we're going to post an episode on YouTube. That's why we want you to watch live.
We try generally to post them on YouTube. But
53064 Frodo. You can text us anytime. We don't just have the phones on during the show. So if you ever want to say hi in the middle of the week, 53064 Frodo.
Last question. Will Torn Tuesday ever do a live stream of us doing riff tracks on Fellowship of the Ring?
That's a great idea. Speaking of riff tracks...
It's not the first time we've been proposed with the idea of doing riff tracks. Saruman, the staff member better known as Josh, Josh Rubinstein.
You know, I just
He
bumped
just-
into a couple of the riff track.
Yeah,
guys.
he just asked us.
Bob Odenkirk.
He mentioned that we should
And
do
David
riff
Cross.
tracks very soon. I love Bob Odenkirk. He's so funny. I love Bob
I
Odenkirk.
just bumped into him right here, Meltdown Comics.
I want to
this
meet
morning.
him. I wish he was here now.
Yeah, he said he was busy. He couldn't stay for
Do you
the
know
show.
what we might do? You know what we might do that'd
That's
be
a
more
good idea.
fun since it's an hour and a half? We should do riff tracks on the animated Rankin and Bass Hobbit.
I like that. We'll
That's
start
an
there.
hour and a half. We'll start there. We'll do a riff track on that.
Thank you for watching, everybody.
Thank you. Follow me on Twitter, QuickBeam2000.
Yeah, just follow him.
Please.
I don't want your
follow
followers.
us on, at TheOneRing.net on
The
Twitter.
OneRing Net,
and
Facebook, Instagram. Oh, check out our
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah, hey, and click
like Instagram.
like on our Facebook page. And while you're at it, check out New Artist Expo for some exciting new visual art and photography and artists.
And we'll see you at some upcoming conventions.
It's
More
gonna
about that
be-
next week.
It's going to be a fun summer. Bye, guys. Thanks for being here. Cheers.
Very good show.